welcome to Learning by Doing with Praveen Kandan. This is Praveen. In this Java exception handling playlist, we will learn exception handling concepts from the scratch. This is Java exception handling session number 14. Finally, block. If you're confident about learning, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. Please click the bell icon and select all notification option. Don't choose personalized option. You may miss some session updates. Let's get started. In our previous session, we have discussed about single generic catch exception. What's the advantage of use that? What are the rules and regulations? So all these things we have discussed. Do and don'ts we have discussed. Generic exception means it should be at last. Specific exception means it should be first. Next, important topic, finally block. So word itself having the meaning final. So your block that always executes whether exceptions occurs or not. So this is the syntax finally, and then within that block you have to place the code. Simple thing. So if you're getting the ATM machine, whether your transaction is successful or not, always there'll be a template and then print the message. Thank you, visit again. Thank you for using our service. Visit again. We'll give the message like that. Am I right? Greetings message. Whether the transaction is happened or not. Okay, if you're inserting the card, it will give the receipt. So thank you. Visit again. Am I right? Whether the amount is available in the machine or not. If you're doing the transaction, that is, you're inserting that card, whether the transaction is a success or fail, it will give the message. ABC ATM Bank, thank you for using our service. Please visit again. It'll give the message. I'm right. The same principle. Okay. So whether exception is handled or not, always your final block will be execute. Okay. Always final block will execute. Okay. So we'll check. Afterwards, again, we'll discuss what's the usage of that. Then only can able to understand the scenarios. Okay. First, we'll go with the scenarios. Scenario one. What is that? Exception occurs and handles. Finally, block will execute. This is the scenario one. We'll discuss here. I'm going to use the same generic catch block. Yeah, I will take this generic class. That is generic class of catch block. It is not required. Okay, I'm removing the generic catch block here. So after this, I'm going to give the finally block. Okay, this is the syntax. I'm right. Finally, then place that code. See here. Finally, and then clean up code here. So what's the first scenario? Exception occurs and handles. So I'm giving arithmetic exception for your understanding purpose. Arithmetic exception divide by 0 exception handled. Got it. So I'm going to exit this code now. Before that, I'm going to print the message like for our understanding purpose, I'm going finally block is execute. Finally block is executed. See here, I'm giving my sample input as 20. So 100 divided by 20, no issues. Okay, 100 divided by 20, no issues. It will give the output 5. After that, it is asking the position. I'm giving the position like now 2. So the value is 50. Yes, this time the position is within the range only 0 to 4. So giving the value means it will be stored and print the value as 50. What I'm printing, array of position. So array of position is 2. Array of 2 is 50 is printing. What is happening? Finally block is executed. So this is a general thing. Okay. Next, I'm giving the normal exception part. So far I've just executed only for namesake. Now just try to understand what's happening, because what's the first scenario? Exception occurs and handle finally also executed. So What type of exception this time trying means is zero. Okay, I'm giving the input as zero. So what will happen, from line number 16 to control be transferred to, because exception is throwing from the try block, so now control be transferred to line number 26. What is that? Yield stores the arithmetic exception. What's the output we may get? Exception handled, followed by finally block is executed. Earlier told you, whether the exception is handled or not, always this finally block will be executed. Always this finally block will be executed. Okay, so that's the reason you're getting the output as finally block is executed. This is about the scenario one. Exception occurs and handled, and finally block is also executed. Next one, exception occurs but not handled. And the important point, what is that? Finally is executing. See here, this time I'm going to do the arithmetic exception problem. Sorry, already we have tried arithmetic. What is it? Array index out of bound exception. Array index out of bound exception. Example, I'm giving 5 is 20, under the by 5 is valid one, so 20 is the output, no issues. Next, the position range is 0 to 4. What I'm giving means, this time I'm giving as 7, so it is out of range, am I right? So next it is asking you to type the value. I'm giving the value as 102. So what is trying means, array of 7 equal to 1 or 2. Actually, the range is only 0 to 4. The size is maximum is 5. So 0 to 4 is applicable. If I'm giving 7, so it will throw one runtime exception. What type of exception? Array index out of bound exception. So first we'll check the line number 26. Is there any arithmetic, sorry, array index out of bound exception? No. We having only arithmetic exception. So exception is not handled. But what will happen? Finally block will always be executed. See here. So exception is occurring. What is that? Array index out of bound exception. But what is happening? Finally block is executed. Whether you are handling the exception or not, this is the proof further. Always this finally block will be executed. What's the reason? Index 7 out of bound for length 5. So this is what I clearly told you. Exception occurs but not handled, but finally block will be executed. So this is the reason finally block is executed. Next, no exception occurs at the time also finally executes. This is what already tried. See here, I'm giving the normal sample inputs. No issues with that. 100 divided by what I'm giving means 4. So the output is 25. Next, position 0 to 4 means I'm giving the position as now 3. Value 250. So array of what is that? That position equal to, yeah, I'm giving the input as 3. So what is that? Array of 3 is 250. The array of 3 is 250. No exception. Catch block will not be executed because there is no reason for getting an exception. So here also final block will always execute. See here, 250 is printing. Finally block is executed because array of 3 values now printing 250, followed by this catch block is not executed because throwing an error exception. Only it will execute it. In this catch block will executes when arithmetic exception is occurring, this catch block will executes. Otherwise this catch block will not be executed. There is no reason for executing the catch block because there is no exception. So at last what is executing? Finally block. This is what I am clearly explained. No exception occurs also finally is executes. Whether your exception is occurring and handled, yes, final block will executes. Whether exception occurs but not handled, yes, finally is executing. No exception occurs, finally executes. So the context is whether you handle the exception or not, or exception is occurring or not, always your final block will executes. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. Next, back to the finally block usage. So where and all we can use. So why you're telling us like a cleanup code means, if you're using the file handling concept, you'll open the file. I'm right, you'll open the file. At one stage, you'll close that file. You'll try to close that file. So whether the file is present or not, okay, whether the file is present or not, you have to close the file. I'm right. Simple example. If normal day-to-day life, if you're opening the tab, always a good character or a good standards or good principle, what you do, you have to close that water tap, am I right? That's a good standard. If you're not closing that water tap, so water will be wasted, am I right? The same thing here. If you're opening the file, if you're trying to open the file, whether the file is present or not, okay, there may be the reason like a file is not present also, file may not exist. So at that time, whether exception is handling or not, but at last you have to close that file. I mean, at last you have to close that file. This what yesterday itself we have discussed. Actually, that code is not present here. Yeah, yeah. In our previous sessions we have discussed. So I'll show that file block usage now. Temporarily, I'm commenting the entire line. So I'm placing this file concept original on here. So while discussing file concept, better we may discuss, because sometimes without understanding this file basic concepts, if I'm explaining this, you can't able to understand. Better I'll go with the scanner class. Okay, so then it's easy to understand. So I'm closing this file concept now, because while discussing the file concepts and then JDBC database connection, you can able to clearly understand. So this time what I'm doing means, so I'm going to give the scanner dot close method here. Scanner dot close. See here, if I'm not using the scanner class, even if I'm getting the exception, I'm going to place that exception code here. Wait, I'll place that exception code. Array index out of one. I think you're already having this here. Yeah. Again, it's not necessary to write it. I'm going to place this code here. Arithmetic array index. Arithmetic will go. So, program starter and take this line, paste it here. I think now everything is fine. This line is also not required. So try block. See here, usually if you're using the scanner class, it'll give the warning. Am I right? So scanner is never closed. Scanner is never closed. So actually, as per the coding standards, if you're opening this object, you have to close it. Scanner dot close, you have to give it. So usually, what where you'll give it means scanner dot class you'll give it. Class will give that scanner dot close. So instead of giving here, right, nothing wrong in that. So you can give it in the finally block. You can give it in the finally block. Reason is, if I'm not handling this exception, okay, if I'm not handling this exception, okay, I'm giving only like here array index outer bound exception, array index outer bound exception. I'm giving assume like this, array index outer bound exception is I'm giving. So this exception is not happening. I'm right. This exception is not happening. I'm not using like finally block and all. I'm just deleting this now. I'm just using only the at array index out of exception. I'm not handling this exception. This scanner dot class will not be executed. See here, if I'm giving my sample input as 0, the exception is thrown. We're not, we can't give the guarantee that the remaining lines will not execute. Definitely will not execute. Just handling only array end of exception, it is not matching. So that is the reason you're getting the error. Even if I'm giving one more statement here, see here, what is that means? What is the line I'm giving means? Program terminated. Okay, I'm exiting the code. Watch it carefully. So I'm giving the input from the reading the input from the user. I'm giving the input as 0. Look at this output. Exception is occurring. When this exception is occurring, it will try to match the catch block. It is not matching. So automatically runtime exception is thrown. Arithmetic exception divided by 0. So the rest of the code is line number 18 is not working means how line number 19 will work. So it is not properly closed. It is not properly closed. Am I right? Are you agree this? Line number 18 itself not working means line number rest of the code line number 19 is also not executing. You are not closing the scanner class properly. Okay, now that finally block is coming into the picture. Okay, you just place this code here. Okay, place this two lines of code. Program is terminated and then scanner dot close. Whether exception is handled or not, or coming whether exception is occurring or not, no issues. Always this finally block will be executed, because as a beginner now you can able to understand it, because if I'm going with the file concept without explain the file concept, it will be confused to you. Okay, so now you just try to understand. Even if I'm giving the value as 0, it is not handled properly here. I'm giving only the array index out of one exception, so it is not matching. Exception is occurring, but what is happening? Program terminated, so scanner dot close is also executing. Okay, what is that? Like a simple water tab concept. If you're opening the water tab, you have to close it. That's a good standard. Likewise, if you're opening a scanner object, you have to close it. So similar way, you can use the finally block. They used for resource cleanup. If you're opening the file, you have to close it. Database connection, if the database connection is established, at last you have to close that. Similarly, scanner network connection. Now only I discuss about the scanner. I hope these examples are clear to you as per the industry standards. So you won't, if you're not sure about that your rest of the code is working or not, you just place the important code in the finally block like this. So object uh, opening and closing part. So scanner object is already open, now you have to close it. Database connection or file, so whatever it is you have to give it. Okay, even the session is too lengthy, it is very important to understand. These are the important three questions you will face these issues in the project. Okay, I hope this session is useful to you. If it is useful, then like the video and subscribe the channel for more updates. Please share it with your friends. Thank you for watching.